So, welcome everyone to the Live, Life, and Learn channel. And today we're going to be talking about the mental framework on how to stop feeling like you're behind in life and the simple mental shift that I use to stop feeling behind. So, let's start with a story. For a long time, I walked around with a quiet but constant feeling that I was behind in life. Not in a dramatic way. Nothing was obviously wrong, and from the outside, things looked fine. But inside, there was a constant sense that I was late to something important, that I was missing out, or that everyone else seems to be getting on time. And it wasn't tied to one specific thing. Sometimes it was my career, sometimes it was a relationship, and a lot of the time it's around money and purpose. And it changed depending on the day. But the feeling itself was always there, just gnawing at me in the background. And what made it worse was that I couldn't really explain it to anyone because nothing had actually gone wrong. And that's the part that people don't talk about. And I want to say this feels like a modern feeling. This feeling that has become one of the most common emotional states in modern life. It's not because people are failing more, it's because we're constantly exposed to everyone else's progress. Milestones are no longer private, they're broadcasted, they're curated, edited, put on a silver platter, and pushed to all of us. You don't just live your own life anymore, you just live next to a feed of other people's highlights. And as the word says, highlights means people probably best moments of their life. And slowly, without realizing it, you start measuring yourself against timelines that were never yours to begin with. By a certain age, you should have it figured out. And by now, you should be more confident, have more money, be more settled, be more certain. But even when you don't consciously believe those ideas, they start to seep in, especially through social media. So why is this feeling so draining? The problem with feeling behind isn't just emotional discomfort, it's what it does to your energy. It's when you believe that you're behind, everything becomes urgent, every decision feels loaded, and every day carries this low level pressure to catch up, even though you're not sure what you're chasing. You're constantly scanning your life for evidence that you're making progress, and when you don't find it, you assume something is wrong with you. And this is exhausting, this is mental fatigue. And it creates a strange paradox when you're always busy thinking, planning, but you're never fully present in the moment. So what changed with me wasn't fixing my life or hitting some external milestone. It was a quieter realization that I wasn't behind in life, but I was measuring myself against the wrong clock. Most of the pressure I felt wasn't actually coming from any circumstances. It was coming from these invisible expectations that I had absorbed from all the timelines of other people, from the hustle culture, from the internet, from YouTube, without ever consciously agreeing to it. And once I saw that, something changed, I thought this isn't right. I'm living my life, I'm doing my best, I'm always trying. Why don't I have this? So, what is the problem with a shared timeline? We always talk about life as if it follows a standard linear sequence: education, career, stability, fulfillment. But real lives don't move in straight lines. They loop, they stall, they speed up in some areas and slow down in others. And when you force yourself into a shared timeline, every deviation feels like failure, even when it's just part of your natural rhythm. You might be early in one area and late in another, but instead of seeing that complexity, you collapse everything into a single judgment. I'm behind. And this judgment is never totally accurate. And one of the most helpful distinctions I learned was the difference between progress and alignment. So progress is external, it's visible, it's measurable. Whereas alignment is internal, it's quieter, It's about whether life makes sense to you. And you can be progressing quickly and still feel deeply unsettled and unsatisfied if what you're building doesn't align with your values. And you can be moving slowly or even standing still, while quietly becoming more aligned with who you are. The problem is that alignment doesn't show up well on social media, so we ignore it. And then we wonder why we feel off. I will give you a great example. As someone that is in medicine, it's one of the longest training pathways. So maybe people my age might, be earning more than me or have achieved something different. But in my field, I'm doing quite well. And in particular, I'm very satisfied with the work that I do and the fulfillment that I get from it. And this is something that, I wouldn't trade for anything, because you are carving your own path. You are following your own footsteps. So anything that you do is attributable to yourself, and you don't really have anywhere to compare to, because there's no one like you, and you are the only one that can follow your path. So what's the problem with comparison? Comparison isn't really about envy, it's about context collapse. You see someone else's outcome without seeing the trade-offs, their doubts, their constraints, their external and internal struggles. And there you compare their visible result to your full internal experience. And this is never fair. And yet most of us do it dozens of times a day without noticing. Over time, this erodes your sense of timing. You stop trusting that your life is unfolding at a pace that makes sense to you. So, what do you need to do? What helped me the most was redefining what it means to be on track. Instead of asking, am I where I should be by now? I start asking, does the direction I'm moving make sense to me? Because this question is slower, less exciting, but it's far more honest. And when I answer it truthfully, I realize that a lot of the pressure I felt came from trying to live someone else's version of a good life. Letting go wasn't dramatic, it was subtle, but it was freeing. Another path of feeling behind comes from hesitation. When you delay decisions, you're afraid of choosing wrong, and time passes, and then you blame yourself for not moving forward. But movement doesn't come from perfect choices, it comes from committed ones. Once I started choosing a direction, even an imperfect one, the sense of stagnation eased, not because everything worked out, but because my energy stopped being split in 10 different directions. And another important thing that you must remember is that you're allowed to move at your own pace. And this is something I wish people hear earlier. You're allowed to move at a pace that fits your life, and you don't need to justify or explain it to anyone. And you don't need to rush just because others seem ahead. And some growth happens quietly, and some reasons are about consolidation, not acceleration. And some periods only make sense in hindsight. And being behind often just means you're in a different chapter. So, an immovable mindset to have is that whenever you compare yourself to someone else, you should always strive to take their positive attributes. So try to analyze, what is it that this person did that helped them get where they are? So it's essentially like a free playbook. In this matter, you don't feel behind, but you're actually seeing everything as a learning opportunity, and you're trying to see what they did right and what benefited them. And is that something that you can use? So this is really, really important. And then you never feel envious or feel bad. And this is what YouTube is for me. It is a form of success for me because I'm out here producing videos and doing something that puts me out of my comfort zone. Sitting, recording, learning different skills, while also working full-time in medicine is difficult. But it helps me clear my thoughts, and it helps me share ideas that I often think about and hope it resonates with other people. to conclude, I still have my moments that, the old feelings creep back in. But when it does, I don't really panic. I just think, well done to that person. And I try to see, as I said, what they did to get where they are. And then I return to my own sense of direction, and the pressure eases. So if you've been feeling behind lately, I hope this reminds you of something simple but important. You're not late to life. You're just arriving in your own time, and you are carving your own path. So thank you very much everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.